Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you all today. I'm watching the chat, seeing so many friendly faces, and I'm so excited about this format. Eventmobi came to me with this idea of doing a debate style discussion around this topic that Katrina was just talking about, which is all around the role that in-person events and virtual events play in the growth of an association and their membership, and also that engagement piece. This is one of those things that I have seen so many times, and I have seen it in all the different Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups. I see it everywhere. And so I'm just really, really excited to be here and help curate this discussion. We have a really short time to have this discussion, and I'm not going to spend all of it talking. So I'm just going to give you kind of an idea of how the flow will be, talk about our 4 amazing speakers who are joining us today, and then we're going to hand it off to them. So each speaker, we have 4 great speakers who are joining us today, representing 2 sides of the debate, that in-person is so critical to the growth and engagement of association members, and that virtual is really where it's at. And so we have those 2 sides of the debate, 2 speakers on each side. They will each individually get 3 minutes to share their side of why they believe that particular perspective. And then we'll take a short break, and then we will give them a few more minutes as a team. The 2 of them will have 2 more minutes to kind of make some rebuttals and add some last thoughts. But first, we want to see where you are weighing in. So we have a short poll that we're going to share. If we can put that up, we want to see where you are currently feeling about this topic. Do you feel like it's definitely in person? We have to get back to that in-person component in order to grow and be successful with our associations? Or is virtual just as good? That's the question, kind of the complete opposite. So I see those are coming in. I know that we have much more than 5 people watching. So take a second, please, and put in your poll results here. And we will, let's just see if we get any more here. All right. All right. So we see almost 50-50. This is a lot of fun. So we're going to poll you guys again at the end to see where you're coming in. And in the meantime, let me introduce our other speakers. We have on the pro virtual side, I'll start there. We have Joaneisenstadt who's joining us. She is going to tell us her perspective, and I'm very excited about that. She is a consultant and speaker, and I've seen her comments in a lot of different groups, so I'm really excited to hear from her. We also have Sean Cheng from Dahlia Plus. You may know him as a leader in the virtual space and in digital forward thinking, so we're excited to hear his thoughts. Then we have on the pro in-person side some very valid points as well. So we're going to hear from Josephine Van Wassen with PCMA. She is going to be talking to us about their perspective on why in-person is so critical. And we're also talking to Susan Mathis from the United States Bowling Congress. We want to make sure we hear her perspective. So each speaker is going to have 3 minutes. And I can see just by looking at this, we're very close. We're looking at 60% of you thinking virtual, 40% thinking really pro in-person. I would love to see where you guys come out at the end of this. So let me first introduce our very first speaker. I'm going to hand it to Josephine Van Wassen from PCMA. Josephine, you have 3 minutes. You're going to see the countdown, and we will cut you off right at the time. So please share your thoughts on pro in-person, why you think this is so critical to the growth of associations.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Liz. Happy to go first and convince more people to me on my side. So if it really has to be either or, I'm surely pro in person. And it's not because of this is how we have always done it in the past, because I think we all clearly know that the key to success is not this is how we have always done it, but it's really looking into what your members need and want, and understand why they're turning to you, what they're looking for with you as an association. And that has clearly changed through COVID, not only across the industry, but also across the globe. And with that in mind, it's important to look at the association's overall long-term vision and strategy. Assuming that growth and engagement are the key objectives of your organization, I'm definitely pro in person. And because associations, as already I've read in the chat earlier, create communities that engage professionals beyond the one-time touch points, but associations build long-term relationships to drive change and create impact. And within communities, we are social creatures. So we are looking for the real human interaction. And that clearly happens at face-to-face events. And because that's where the association takes real shape. So where you can create engagement with all senses. And creating those engagement and experiences create the sense of belonging, being part of the bigger picture and being part of the mission of the association. And that's very important for retention, but also for turning members into active ambassadors for your association. And those ambassadors eventually help you win new members and grow your association. And that is only growth in the context of membership. But growth in the financial aspect or maintaining income is the other aspect of it. And the key factor on this side are successful collaboration with partners and sponsors. And an important element of those collaboration and creating those opportunities for your partners and sponsors are exhibitions and booth options. So where your partners can really meet with your members face to face or online. So from a recent digital insight studies that we have done from PCMA with the AC Forum, we have found out that the majority of partners actually did not find the digital options really turn out the way they wanted to. And that is for two options. A, because attendees didn't really engage with them online. So the engagement that we want to create in order for the growth opportunity did not really turn out online. And ultimately, that ROI that sponsors were looking for did not materialize the way they were hoping to. That's why, from the financial aspect, on-site and in-person, that works way more efficiently. And this financial aspect is very crucial in the success for the for partnership and ultimately for the financial aspect and the growth. And I think with that, Liz is coming back, and I'm handing back over.
That was amazing. You used exactly 3 minutes, so thank you for sharing your perspective. We're going to come right back to you to get some more thoughts after we've heard from our other speakers. So let me introduce Joaneisenstadt, who will join us next and share her thoughts on the pro-virtual argument. Oh, you are muted, Joan. Let's hit that mute button on the bottom. You're good.
Hold on. Okay, hold on. Thanks. Now we're good? Yeah?
Yes, you are.
So I don't get 3 minutes knocked off. All right. So we're starting the clock, yeah? So
Yes, you're good.
the first is that I've been involved in virtual learning and cohesive virtual communities since the early 90s. And I've maintained contact with many of the people that I've been involved with over many years and often not seeing them. In fact, there are clients I work with that I have never met in person and only worked with virtually. I work almost exclusively with associations and have done so for more than 40 years with my own company and doing a lot of different work. One of the things that we know is that association members and their needs and abilities are more diverse than ever. Budgets for associations and personal budgets are less robust than pre-COVID. We also know that cities and workers in cities have to also have an income stream. Virtual makes it a little more difficult. We've got to figure those issues out. Still in favor of virtual. Child and other care and travel availability and dollars are barriers to an abundance of varied professional development that virtual can meet easily. In fact, for me, during all of COVID, I have spent a lot of time learning virtually. eCornell, if you haven't used it, has been an incredible resource for learning and connectivity. I've met people I would never have had an opportunity to meet who are related to the association world of meetings, but not within my sphere. DEI that we all talk about in associations now finally is beginning to include PWDs, persons with disabilities, among whom I number myself. That means that virtual can be far more inclusive than a physical meeting that requires travel and perhaps assistance. Safety is always paramount. When producing a physical meeting, right now, we're mainly concerned with COVID. COVID is not over yet, not around the world and not as we reopen travel. We also know that weapons continue to be an issue, and when we are physically together, they become a greater issue. We've seen a greater increase in physical crime as people begin to gather again. And lastly, in addition to being able to form strategic and cohesive communities, we can, when attending virtually, dress far more comfortably than we would at a physical meeting. And I can yield my time.
Wonderful. Thank you. This is doing this live is such a risk trying to keep to the time, but thank you for doing that and speaking so eloquently. So we will come back to you in just a second. We're now going to Susan Mathis with the United States Bowling Congress to go back to side one. Hi, Susan.
Hello, good morning. Not to overuse a word that we're probably all sick of, but I think pivot is a good word for the way my thought process has changed, thinking about virtual and live events. I work for an association that is dedicated to a sport of bowling, and that just in a nutshell does not lend itself well to a virtual experience. We did an annual convention last year, and it was a virtual experience out of an abundance of caution. And it provided the information that people needed, but it just didn't include that human interaction that everybody needed. Everybody's looking forward to having a live event next year, and our membership gave us lots of feedback that that's what they were looking to do, and our membership tends to skew older than the average population, so it was a surprise how much the support was there for a live event. I think virtual elements can definitely enhance and simplify an in-person event and can even lead to cost savings and things like that, depending on the situation. So I do think that hybrid events are going to be around for a long time, but when you're dealing with something, especially around a sport like my association is, live events are hard to duplicate in the process. We're inherently social creatures. We need the interaction. And I've found that bowlers in particular are very social, chatty people, and they just don't tend to have that same level of back and forth on a virtual platform as they do face-to-face and in person. So having said that, my pivot is I came from a medical education association, and virtual worked a lot better in that realm, but sport is a whole different thing. So I think that it really does depend on the mission of your association and what your members want. So definitely a pivot. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you for that. All right, we are going to our fourth and final speaker in this speed round, and then we're going to take a little break, let our two teams chat with each other and come up with their rebuttal strategy, and then we will give them a chance to speak once again. But let's hand this over to Sean Cheng from Dahlia Plus.
Hello, everyone, and I hope you guys can hear me okay. And I will get started. So I think both me and Joan here that we are not questioning the effectiveness and even importance of in-person events, that we understand, especially now, probably until 2023, people are eager to meet again. I had a lot of association clients, and that is the constantly point that I receive is they cannot wait to meet again. But this revenge travel or revenge event will pass. And then after this pass, I think association then need to ask the question is, what exactly is my community want? Is they only one event, or they actually, because of COVID, that their behavior had changed, they're starting to know there are other option or solution that can give them what they want. In-person events and conferences are not the reason associations exist. In-person events have been a very proven strategy that help association achieve their goal, but equally, we also know a lot of digital opportunity can do the same as effectiveness, if not more. Last but not least, if your association values accessibility, inclusion, and all the DEI topics seriously, which you should, by the way, then how can in-person events be a must-have for your event when in-person event actually have a lot of obvious limitation to give your audience access to your content, to your event? In-person event is important, and they are continue to be, but we should not limit the option of digital offering. And that is kind of our point.
Thank you. My goodness. Okay, so lots of things to think about. I want to give the two teams a few minutes to just debrief with each other. Thank you, Sean, for giving us your thoughts. What we want to do now is give each team as a team 2 additional minutes to respond to the thoughts. We're looking at these kind of 2 extremes, which is one of those things that I think is challenging. I know for myself, I'm a middle of the road person. I like to think, well, some of what, Susan and Josephine said makes sense. I also am totally understanding a lot of what Sean and Joan are saying. And so I'm kind of in the middle trying to pull it together. But I really am curious what this is doing to you as the attendees. So please, check in the chat. Let us know what you're thinking. I see you guys agreeing with some of these points. Really understanding for an association, what does this mean for your organization and the path forward as we look at in-person versus virtual? So I hope our teams are ready. I'm going to transition over to Josephine and Susan to share some of their final thoughts. You guys have 2 minutes. Josephine, do you want to kick it off, and then we'll go to Susan for your 2 minutes here?
Yeah, sure. I hope we can convince some more of you to go back to in-person or be pro in-person. So I just want to pick up the point around saving travel time and budget, which is obviously a very valid point. But when at home, we compete with your kids, we compete with the free time, we compete, everything else that gets you away from the computer and actually emails, listening to the content and what the event creates and shares for you. So, when being at in-person, you're more focused on what happens on site. You're more focused on the discussions in the hallways, on the networking. So I think what you get out of it from live events as an attendee and ultimately as an organization is just way bigger. And ultimately, what we also have found out actually in the Digital Insight study is that once you're on site, your commitment to the event is much bigger. So you focus more, you're more present and more engaged, and that ultimately contributes to the growth. Susan, what do you like to add?
I would just like to add that I think, the key driver in all of these decisions should really come from the bottom up. And I think it's critical to listen to your members, to really engage with what their challenges are, what they're looking for. And if you reflect the wishes and the desires of your members and create a great product, no matter what that looks like, I think in the end, you're going to win and they're going to win as well. And it'll be that much easier for them to continue to support your organization. So I don't think there is a right or wrong answer. And again, I think as long as we all continue to be flexible and be willing to pivot as the world changes around us, then we'll be able to produce really effective, productive events for everybody.
You guys are masters at the timing. Thank you so much, Josephine and Susan, for sharing your thoughts today. Let's hand it over to Sean and Joan to see what they are thinking. Sean, I'll hand it to you first, and then we'll go to Joan.
Sounds good. So I think our point is we believe in-person events are equally important, but we want to challenge the debate topic, which is in-person event is absolute critical and important for any association. I think pandemic just proves again that a diverse revenue stream for any association are actually more critical. And therefore, if your association are only tied with in-person, then you have trouble. DEI is equally important and should be center stage at every association. You just cannot do that if you only focus on in-person. And Joanne, do you have anything you want to add with our last 30 seconds?
I do, Sean, a couple of things. One is, Susan, I agree. There are some meetings that just cannot happen without the physical aspect. So thank you for bringing that up. We've also had successful virtual events for a long time, and they've been part of physical events. We've been able to meet successfully as teams, as colleagues, and learning throughout COVID and before that. Associations depend on their annual meeting income to run the associations. And so what we're going to have to do is relook at the budget model for all of us to try to figure out how to do that. Meeting disruptions happen. We've had to pivot to meet those disruptions, and we will again. We did it through 9/11, Katrina, Sandy, Ida, all of the things, the weather issues. And entirely virtual or virtual components of meetings created with access for all are the future of inclusive, diverse, global connectivity and associations.
Well, thank you so much. Such a great way to end this conversation. So thank you, Joan and Sean, for sharing your thoughts, and to all of our speakers today. This is, again, it's one of those topics that I see in every LinkedIn group and every Facebook group. Everyone is talking about one side or the other. And, you know, we started this particular conversation with Torben talking about hybrid. And I think it makes a lot of sense, right, to bring these two extremes together in different ways. I've been talking a lot about hybrid event strategies and overall strategy year round to engage our members that might include in-person only, virtual only, and some of those hybrid in the middle as well, because we really do have to try different things to reach our audience. So that's kind of where I land in all of this conversation. But let's see what the attendees are thinking. If we can bring up that poll that we did at the beginning, I want to bring it up again with a fresh start and see if we've convinced some people to fly one way or the other. So let's put that poll out there and see how we've done. All right, so we'll give it a few seconds. We're still very close to what we were before. Looks like we have just slightly shifted some people towards the pro in-person. I think we were 60 and 40. Now we're about 55, 45. This is clearly why we are doing this discussion, because it's a very hot topic and every organization is different. I think Susan's point too about understanding your organization and knowing for your audience. I see that swing going back towards the 60% for virtual. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for participating. Talking about a topic like this in 25 minutes is pretty insane, but we somehow pulled it off live. So thank you to all of our speakers, and just continue, please, all four of you, to inspire the industry to think differently about all the different ways that we can be reaching and growing our audience and our membership base while keeping them engaged. So thank you for the time.